Hello and good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. We'll get started in just a few minutes. In the meantime, please take a moment to sit back, relax, and we'll jump into it in just a few minutes. Hello and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. We are just taking a moment to wait for a few more participants to join us. So in the meantime, please sit back, relax, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. If you do have any questions before we get started, go ahead and send those to the Q&A function, and we'll address them as we go.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Spotify picked an interesting next song in the playlist there, so. All right, so good morning, everybody, and thank you again for joining us for today's webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about the hybrid office. This is the next webinar in our series addressing our return to the office. So a couple of action items that we should talk about before we jump into the webinar. First of all, just for the flow of the webinar and to maintain focus on the content, we've disabled the chat function. So if you do have any questions as we go forward, please direct those to the Q&A. We'll address many questions as we go, and a lot we'll save for the end, and we'll have time at the end to address those questions. Also, I want to invite you to please stick around to the end of the webinar. We'll have a QR link that you can scan on your, excuse me, on your mobile device, which will allow you to reach out directly to us and schedule a one-on-one consultation, or just set up a one-on-one with one of our product experts to make sure that all of your questions are answered. So once again, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for taking the time to join us this morning. Today, we're going to talk about prepping for success in the new hybrid office. And I'd like to introduce our panelists for today's webinar. So from DTEN, we have Celestin, our head of marketing. Joining us this morning is Mark Barragan, the North America Zoom Rooms manager from Zoom, and Scott Krueckeberg, our head of strategic alliances at DTEN. Before I move on, this webinar is being recorded and it will be available online. We'll send out a link after the webinar for everybody who couldn't stick around to the end, or if you might not be here for the actual webinar person. So with that being said, I'm going to hand the webinar to our head of marketing at DTEN, Celestin, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about what we're seeing as culture in the new hybrid office and what we should be preparing for in the future. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jackson. And, thank all of you for joining us today. We are all getting closer and closer to heading back to the office. And we all know that the office isn't going to be the same as it was before. Even if you're returning full time to the office, or if you're working a few days a week in the office, or if you're permanently at home, it's all going to feel a little different, and it's going to have to be a little different for us to do a couple of critical things. And those are, keeping our teams engaged. They're about collaborating in this new way. And it's also about video conferencing. One of the things is, is a fact now, having video enabled conference rooms in the office is simply mission critical. The world has changed in this past year, and it's essential for most businesses to provide a video conferencing option, not just for their employees, but customers and clients that have gotten used to, right, doing business over video. That trend is going to continue. And one of the most important things is going to be about how do we build fail-safe video meeting spaces. And the team is going to talk to you a lot about some of the important elements or components and what that is in terms of the requirements to make that statement true for you and your businesses. And then, of course, you know, collaboration. Teams work best, right, when they're sharing their ideas and they're brainstorming together. And how do we do that in this new environment where some folks just aren't even in the room with us at that time? So relying on technologies that can deliver an in-room collaboration experience remotely is simply essential. And, you know, Mark and Scott are going to talk a lot about what that looks like and feels like, and the resources really that are available for you to be able to create those environments for your teams. And then the last thing is sort of an umbrella conversation that we're going to discuss throughout the entire webinar. And it's about how do you keep teams engaged? This has a lot to do with collaboration, tools, right? Video rooms, as well as strategies about how do we as managers keep our teams focused together, feeling like a team? How do we prevent isolation for those people who are working remotely? All of those are critical questions as we get ready to return to the office. And one of the central points here is about building successful team collaboration, particularly for those of you who had a completely in-office culture, who are transitioning to a more video forward and first culture. You are facing that critical question. How do we keep our corporate culture alive as we make these transitions and we make remote work possible for the folks working for us? And some of this is really around how do you design the experiences around inclusion for easy collaboration. And I know certainly here at DTEN, when we're talking to our customers, this is an issue for folks, deeply concerned about how do we create that sense of inclusion across our teams. And of course, we're all concerned about safety, even though we're vaccinating and we're getting closer and closer to full vaccination, we're not quite there yet. And so how do we give our employees, our customers, our clients, our partners, right, the reassurances that they need so that they feel safe in coming back into the office? And finally, again, it's about engagement, inclusion, and productivity, not just in the office, but also at home. There's that flip side of the equation that we really have to focus on as well. It's not just about what's going to happen in the office, but what happens to you if you're working remotely full-time or even just working part-time.
And Nia, you hit the nail on the head there, right? We're hearing from a lot of our customer base here at Zoom is how do we return safely back to the office? And how do we make it seamless for those users to collaborate that are in office with the folks at home? And with that hybrid workforce, you know, we keep hearing over and over again, who wants to go back to the office and stare at a starfish in a conference room? And this is what we're going to talk about today, is how do we make it exciting with these, with all these devices we talk about from DTEN today, for people to want to go back to the office and engage both in the office and with the hybrid workforce at home.
Mark, I think that's a really critical point. Part of maintaining culture is to deliver that consistent experience regardless of where folks are, so that they are comfortably familiar, right, with all of the technology, so that the technology enhances the experiences and it doesn't detract from it because, you know, I'm learning something new here, I'm using something else there. That consistency is really critical. And, you know, the overall conversation about engaging teams, we're really stressing this because engaging teams is really the key to success. This is going to be a real critical turning point Folks that are able to do this successfully in this new environment are simply going to be successful. One of the things we know is that when folks are engaged, open communication, easy collaboration, meaningful connections with one another, right? Businesses thrive as well as teams themselves. So, companies that have highly engaged employees end up being more profitable ultimately than companies that don't. And so with that, I'm going to hand this off to Scott and Mark, and they're going to really talk about the Zoom DTEN collaboration and dig a little deeper into the technology that can really help you solve some of these critical challenges.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nia. So the great thing about DTEN and Zoom is we've been partners in collaboration since 2017. So DTEN is known to be the first all-in-one device that brought that fantastic Zoom Rooms experience to the customers. And that has put us in a position to be innovation leaders, each company pushing each other to design the feature set and the upside for our shared customer. And that has a lot to do with our joint product development and our engineering teams working so closely together on the hardware and the software side to deliver the best Zoom experience possible. What also DTEN brings to the table is that simplicity where it's very intuitive, very natural to use the Zoom Rooms environment on a DTEN device. And we bring that value with incredible price points, which allows you to scale your operation, deploy more rooms, more collaboration spaces, and really stretch that budget that you have as a company and make it really last and provide the most technology possible to your employees.
And, I'll just reiterate what Scott said is I can't describe just how great this partnership has been since 2017 that we've got together. Zoom, we're a UCaaS company first and foremost, software based, right? We don't build hardware. So when DTEN and Zoom got together, and DTEN has world-class hardware devices, it's like how do we create a synergy where we can create the best device out there? And with our software embedded in DTEN, what they do best is create these all-in-one devices. We were able to come together and world-class software with world-class hardware to create these awesome devices. And I would say that we used the word earlier in this conversation of video conferencing everywhere, but the reality is it's collaboration everywhere. A lot of these devices are used. If I just walk into an open space or a conference room, I could walk up to one of these devices and start whiteboarding. I can annotate on my presentation. I mean, it truly is a collaboration device, even for just in-person, all-in-one room, by just walking anywhere. And that's the great thing about these all-in-one devices is they're all touch-enabled, which gives you a great experience. How many times have you been in a conference room where you walk up to the screen and you just want to touch it and start writing and you realize it's just an LCD or it's just an LED monitor? I mean, this, you walk up to it and it's interactive. And, whether it's in enterprise spaces or, in the classroom, we get the feedback all the time from instructors. Scott and myself have talked to quite a bit of schools now at this point, and feedback we get all the time is, this isn't just a video conferencing device. This is a great device for just playing videos and just sharing my presentation wirelessly, and I can get up and move around. It's just really cool what we've created with this. And when you get the feedback that we've gotten from those use cases, it's great.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And I think from here we should talk a little bit more about what DTEN and Zoom together, what we do, and we have a really nice video queued up that we can show. It kind of gives a nice overview of that.
Great.
Let's take a look.
Welcome to the new future with DTEN and Zoom, where innovation powers your meeting experience. DTEN makes it easy to return to the office with award-winning solutions for every workspace, large conference rooms, huddle spaces, in-office phone booths, and home offices. DTEN is the perfect solution for the hybrid work environment with true all-in-one devices. Simplify your meeting spaces and replace the need for external components and messy cables. DTEN devices set up in minutes. Just plug it in and it just works. Safely return to the office with DTEN and Zoom. Transform existing displays into a touch experience with DTEN Go and DTEN Mate. Use DTEN as your virtual receptionist to greet visitors. Start and manage meetings hands-free from your mobile device or voice commands. Leverage digital signage to share information throughout the office. DTEN's innovative technology drives powerful collaboration. Experience crystal clear audio and lifelike video. Increase participation and engagement. Easily share content. Illustrate your ideas using whiteboarding. And mark up documents and presentations in real time. Join a Microsoft Teams meeting directly from your DTEN device. Upgrade to true all-in-one devices for a modern, simplified meeting experience. DTEN and Zoom, innovating the new future together.
I think that video is great, Mark, and kind of, announcing some of the work, right, that we've gotten done in the last year, where we're really taking technology and powerful solutions that are exciting and fun to use, punching them out of a conventional conference room per se, and giving these technology and the tools to remote workers. You can use them at home. You can use them at the front desk and hot desking and hoteling, and just so many solutions that we've come up with, I think, is the most exciting part that we get to talk about today.
Yeah, and you're seeing here, someone simply drawing, circles doesn't do it justice, but think about this as just a giant iPad, right? How many times, again, you sit there with your iPad, and that's just great for an individual use case. But in this case right here, we could, again, have home users that do have iPads. They're individually in their offices, collaborating with people who are in a conference room and sitting in front of this digital whiteboard here, as well as annotating on top of content, which is a huge use case for us, both in EDU and in an enterprise space. So a lot of cool things that we can do work seamlessly. As you can see here today, I could just walk in the room, I could be annotating, it saves to a chat channel, or I could save it as a JPEG and email it out immediately. And there's a lot more to come here. The end of this summer, we have a rich roadmap of whiteboarding features that we'll be producing for things like infinite canvas, where we can pinch and zoom and make it bigger. And we're also talking about doing things like saving into a chat with a living whiteboard, not just a JPEG. So think about, maybe our whiteboarding session ends right now, and then later on today, we want to pick it back up. Instead of it being just a JPEG, we can still erase things. We can still add more to the actual whiteboard session, all with just sharing it to a chat channel. So a lot more to come on whiteboarding.
Yep. And I think that first line is hitting the nail on the head, that simplicity matters. They are intuitive. They are simple to use. So, we talk to customers all day that are very concerned about that knowledge barrier of piecemeal systems, choosing the right cameras and microphones and getting it all to work together. And DTEN is just taking care of that for you.
And just, on the simplicity thing, I can't reiterate enough how many times we've sat with customers and they ask the question all the time, how hard is it to use these devices? Is it going to be difficult to teach the user base? And, we just say the same thing. Why don't you get up and just start using it and see for yourself? And, it's the same interface on one of these devices that it is in our client. So, with keeping that simplicity, if you learn to use a Zoom client, you know how to use this the second you walk up to it, because it's going to have the same toolbar at the bottom. It's going to have the same look and feel in the UI across all the devices. And we keep it consistent. So a lot of feedback goes into designing the UI on this. And that's something that, we're very proud of, is that it takes very little, if you will, training for an individual to just walk up to this and start using it, especially with calendar integration. Your meetings are all teed up. Simply walk up to the device. I see my meeting that's scheduled for 1 o'clock later in the day. I just click on it and it jumps right into that meeting. There's really nothing to train anybody on that, right? As long as you can go into your calendar and schedule a room, you'll have the calendar invites and one button to push the second you walk in, and then you'll have all your tools right there. So you can immediately start collaborating via just a regular video conference, a whiteboard session, or a simple PowerPoint that you're going to be doing wirelessly.
Add there, for folks who are really new to, Zoom rooms and that whole experience, I know for me in my last company, they did have video rooms, and there was a lot of stuff in those rooms. There was a lot of devices and a lot of cabling and all of that sort of a thing. And DTEN devices have all the components for a Zoom room in a single device. And so you see there, we say like all in one. And sometimes we don't focus enough, I think, on that. But for people who, haven't had the previous experience, or to understand, how innovative it is to have a solution that collapses everything that's required for a Zoom room experience into a single device.
And just really quickly on the safety, because we're asked this all the time. A lot of times people are not going to want to touch those screens right when they walk back to the office. So again, on the safety, we can use a stylus. And in this case right here, you're looking at a DTEN stylus right here. And so this is really cool because I could just walk up to one of these and use my own personal stylus if I need to go ahead and touch the screen, and I'm concerned that I don't want to touch a common surface. So, it's safe to use as well with the stylus.
Cool. So let's jump into some of the different applications of this technology, and we'll start with the reception desk. Right. So there's some pretty new features that we can do on the DTEN Me, which I think we take all those core principles that we just talked about, and it makes for a really great first impression for anybody that first walks into your office or into a lobby or in a commons area where you're going to want an informational display or a very easy to use one touch to meet with a number of contacts. Scott, do you want to talk a little bit more about the virtual receptionist?
Yeah, and I think the original idea for it being a virtual receptionist was fantastic. Keeping that safe distance, you can have your receptionist be remote. You can have them in a different room, and using the Me to make a single tap to connect with that receptionist. It was a great idea, and we've seen a wonderful reception around that hardware software combo. But really what we didn't expect, Mark, were all the other use cases that have organically come up over the last few months, where this is just so much more than a receptionist. It's a virtual concierge, it's help desk. You can contact IT, customer service, and it's really great working with each customer one-on-one because they've used the kiosk mode to really dial in a specific need or solution that they need for their specific company. And it's really been fun to work on all these projects and get these DTEN Me's all over different floor plans, different offices, from restaurants to companies and office buildings, and really see where the customer has taken this technology and applied it right to their own solutions.
Yeah, I can't describe the excitement that customers get with this. I've been in this industry for 15 years, and we've been trying to sell this virtual receptionist concept in the past, and everybody still loved it even 10 years ago. The problem was it was way too expensive to roll out. We're talking about $10,000 to $15,000 devices in every reception area or lobby. We're talking about software that costs hundreds, if not millions of dollars in the background to create this bank of operators. And so now here we have it in this simple form. All it takes is one Zoom Room license on the device itself. I go right into my portal, like Scott says, convert it from a Zoom Room to a kiosk mode, put the graphic logo in the background, change a couple of colors, I'm off and running. So it's very, very simple to use, not expensive, right? The DTEN Me retails for $599, so $599 to get started versus where it used to be thousands and thousands of dollars. And we it's part of our portal. We don't charge you any extra for a virtual receptionist. And like Scott said, there's so many different use cases. We're not even saying get rid of the receptionist. What if the receptionist can't make it to work that day? What if you're in the lobby at a school and that person who greets everyone can't be there that day in person? Maybe there's couldn't make it for whatever reason. Traffic was bad that day, or maybe they're sick but they still want to work. Well, they can also be remote and join and greet everybody this way. So there's so many use cases for this, like Scott says, and they're popping up everywhere, and we're getting a lot of requests for enhancements on the kiosk mode that we're already working on. So even more to come on this. So it's simple to use today, works right out of the box, sets up in minutes, and we have much more to come here.
Yeah. And a really fantastic customized builder, right? That Zoom is put right into their portal that allows you to put a custom background, your company logo. It's just really nice custom solution. And what's great about this, it just kind of follows the value proposition of being scalable. And with these price points and this technology, you don't have to limit yourself to one device for one receptionist. We see companies rolling out multiple devices to contact individual departments, and it's really been a great project.
Yeah, it works. Also, you can see here, on a stand or right on the desktop, right? So very cool in the way you can deploy this out, very flexible.
Cool. We'll move into the next application you can see in the new hybrid office, and that's talking about some of our more traditional meeting rooms, but with a twist, right? Because now you can deploy these all-in-one, very easy to use collaborative technologies. And so we'll start talking about sort of a larger room that might have the D7 dual 55-inch display. Right, some of the things you can do with that.
Yeah, so the D10 dual, right, the 55-inch has been fantastic for companies that want that dual use case where you can have your gallery view on one screen, you're engaging, making eye contact with all of the participants, but then you also have that additional screen to do your content sharing and do your whiteboarding and your annotation. So it's really one of our best products to maximize the interaction, but also being able to ingest that content and really engage and bring the collaboration and the conferencing together at the same time. And it's really been fantastic for companies who have that space to have both versions of Zoom rooms going live at the same time.
And just one more on that, is if you go back really quick, we didn't hit it enough, but one Zoom room license entitles you to digital signage. So when you're not using those screens for collaboration or a video conferencing session with Zoom, you can use them for digital signage. So you can post whatever the corporate messaging is for the day or the week or the month, right up on those screens. And it's digital signage that we have that's unlimited digital signage with one Zoom room license in any organization. So a lot of cool things you could do with that.
Yeah, Mark, I think you touched on this a little bit a minute ago, and that's hands-free collaborative meeting spaces. Right, a couple ways you can do that. You can use a stylus to minimize the amount of actual finger-to-finger touch that might be on a shared surface. But also, there's some pretty cool things happening with pairing with your devices, right? So controlling it from a remote device, and also some very cool voice activation features coming out very shortly.
Absolutely, and I think we'll go through there. We've got some slides to kind of roll out what that experience is going to be like. But I think pairing is one of the best features, right, that Zoom Rooms has started to bring to the table, Mark, and that's just the synergy of having your personal device work with the device in the room, and starting with the mobile application was great. Having your contacts, your meetings, your controller all in that personal device, and being able to stop your meeting. All those things are fantastic. And next month, being able to use your laptop to do the same thing. So what I think is great about D10 is we kind of live in both of the universes that you hear right now, where it is the devices in the room versus BYOD, right? Bring your own device. And this is really just taking care of all of it in one ecosystem where, yes, bring your own device, but this device enters into the D10 and the Zoom room environment and just kind of creates all new options and opportunities to kind of mix both of those worlds. And we get to have the conversation both with what is the BYOD experience like versus what is the traditional conference room and technology conversation like, and really bring options for both situations.
And with pairing, I'll add that, the word pairing is interchangeable with hot desking, hoteling, right? It simply means I walk into the space or room, I take my mobile device, or like Scott said, coming next, or actually in July, we'll have pairing to PC or Mac. And I open it up, there's a beacon that comes out of these D10 devices. And the Zoom client is listening to this beacon. And it pops up. So, in the sense of how easy is it to use, again, we try to make it as simple as possible. So, I always say if my neighbor can use it, it's not in this space, then we've done a good job. And, we've tested that many times where walk into a space where there's a Zoom room, just simply take my mobile device and it pops up and says, would you like to pair to this room? Once I pair, that device becomes mine. So I'm essentially pairing to it, hot desking, hoteling, whatever word you want to use there. And it becomes my camera, microphone, speakers. So I don't have to use, my mobile device or my Mac or PC to do the Zoom meeting anymore. When I hit start my meeting on my client, it automatically pops it up into the D10 device. So the cool thing here is we try to make it seamless as possible. If you know how to use a Zoom client, you have it loaded up. The second users go back into the office, they're going to be able to use these devices, and it's just going to hit you right there. It's going to hit you right in front of your device and say, are you ready to pair with this device? So how cool is that? So again, there's safety aspect of that and just the excitement. I mean, I want to go back to the office. Now I want to use some cool tools. Again, I don't want to stare at a starfish when I'm so used to doing this video from home during the pandemic. So we have to give our customer base, if we will, and all the users out there when they're returning to the office, a reason to go back. So they need to be able to collaborate in this forum. And we want to make it easy with these devices to be able to do that everywhere.
And there's some great visuals here of that experience and what to expect using your personal device and the interface that Zoom is providing to enter into that environment. So as you can see, something also traditionally that was shared in a room is the controller. And now that is built into your personal device as well. So each person has single points of contact to control the meeting, control the device. So, really when we're talking about simplicity and price point, it backs it up again, because something as low cost as the device you already have in your pocket combined with something like a stylus can provide the safest environment possible to return to some of these shared rooms.
Yes, the question was asked, when is it available for Mac and PC as well? I saw that come through. And July timeframe is when we will be releasing that for Mac and PC. It's more on, just to be clear on that as well, is that in order to do pairing from a Mac or a PC, it's more from the actual client itself. So it's the Zoom client that needs the intelligence, not the actual D10 device or the Zoom room. It's really the client, and that's what we're building today.
Pretty exciting new things coming.
Cool. So we alluded to this earlier in this discussion, and this is our roadmap with whiteboarding. So much more here to come. We've been challenged by our customer base to say, your whiteboarding is great today, but we think it could be better. So what we responded with is, now we have the ability to do this. This is something we're looking to launch sometime in the fall. So basically the ability now, instead of saving to a JPEG when I'm done with my whiteboard session, we want to make it a living whiteboard, as I mentioned before. So what this means is when I'm in a meeting, I could simply share this right here into an actual chat channel within my Zoom client, and that becomes a living whiteboard. So picture I'm in a conference room, I get kicked out because I didn't book enough time in there. So I'm at the top of the hour. Now I'm scrambling because I have my home users who want to continue to collaborate. I have myself and maybe some others that were in a conference room. We now can go find another conference room that has a D10 device on there, simply walk into there, pair again to the actual device itself, pop open our living whiteboard, and we pick up right where we left off. Cool thing here is that's something you just can't do with a dry erase whiteboard. You can't do that with a piece of glass where you're annotating on. The best you could do is maybe take a picture and then send it out to everyone afterwards, and it's just an image, which is cool, but not as cool as actually being able to pick up right where I left off in another room with another D10 device, and the whiteboard is just sitting there living. Along with that as well, we'll be adding what's called infinite canvas, which gives me the ability to pinch and zoom if I need more space. In the past, or the way it currently works, I have to hit new page and create another page in order to keep on whiteboarding. Now we'll be able to scroll over, pinch and zoom to make our canvas infinite. Sticky notes. I wasn't a true believer of sticky notes, but I've been using them quite a bit lately. And I got to say that it's they are sticky. So, I'm now using them all the time. It's very cool to just jot down a note, toss it up onto a whiteboard, and it's just very cool the way that works. And that work stream, and we know that the creative workforce out there, they love to use this, right? Especially for storyboarding, brainstorming. So we'll be bringing that to our whiteboarding space as well. And then last but not least, for those of us who like to do Visio type diagrams, or we just like whiteboarding, networking stuff, we'll have workstream templates. So instead of having to start from scratch, I can go pick a template and start manipulating it and already have a template there, so I don't have to do a block diagram from scratch. So this is cool in order to start my session a lot more quickly, and be more efficient with our time.
Yep.
So a lot more to come on whiteboarding, and this will all find its way, of course, onto the D10 devices as we move forward across the board. So very exciting what we have coming here from a roadmap perspective.
And that's why I think we get a lot of feedback about the devices being future-proof, because you can deploy and install these devices, and DTEN and Zoom will continue to innovate, provide new features, and all these devices get updated over the air, which is fantastic. You can use the Zoom management portal to update all these devices. We can push them via wireless. So it's really fantastic that the hardware is designed as being future-proof. So you have the maximum quality possible. And as we release new features, new firmware, new software, you're just going to continue to enjoy those without replacing the actual hardware.
And the question was asked really quickly that we can address is this just going to be exclusive to DTEN? No, this is on the actual Zoom client as well. So this right here is something we're adding to the core product of Zoom, which means it'll be living in our client across the board to all Zoom rooms. So we'll get this, but you do need a touch-enabled device if you want to take it to the next level in the conference room, which would be a DTEN.
Probably one of the hottest conversations we're having at the moment, right, Mark, is these personal workspaces and being able to provide these private one-on-one spaces where an employee can safely return and engage in a video meeting in collaboration. And some of the best facility plans that I've seen in the last couple of months involve these video phone booths. So maybe a little insight on Zoom rooms and the whole aspect of the phone booth.
Yeah, so phone booth, really cool. Again, with the pairing, hoteling, hot desking initiative there that we have. So the pairing mode works really well here. So I can create a hot desk. We get asked all the time. We have a lot of users at home that work with 2 monitors. How do we replicate that everywhere? We don't want to just pin up 2 monitors in these booths. So with the DTEN Me, for example, I can have one of these phone booths, walk in there with my laptop. The second I open up my laptop and pair to it, I now have a dual screen system. So I can continue to do my email or do whatever I'm doing on my laptop or tee up my presentation. Then I have my secondary monitor in there that would be my DTEN Me. And it's a connectionless, or if you will, a wireless connection that we build. So instead of having to go and grab wires and plug it in, I just establish that communication with my hot desk, if I will, in that room, and I'm off and running. Or if I don't have a laptop at all, and I simply want to walk in there and use one of these devices, I just simply take my phone out and I can pair to it as well. And in that case, that becomes now my own personal device with my own calendar. I can simply look at my meeting that starts at 1 p.m. later today, click join, and I'm off and running. So very, very simple to use in that case as well. And again, very simple to use. If you know how to use a Zoom client, you know how to use one of these devices. And right when you walk into one of these little booths, one of these little spaces, that beacon's going to hit your client. You're going to be asked if you want to pair to it. And once we pair, we're off and running. So, very simple. And this is something we're seeing across the board is very popular. I'm surprised actually at how many booths I see in the return to office, activity that we're seeing out with some of the customers. They're building, these little phone booths from a few different manufacturers that can come in and drop them right in the middle of an open space. And then you have a small little, private area for individuals to walk into and start collaborating. So a lot of exciting things there, and it plays very well to both the DTEN on here and then obviously the DTEN Me as well.
And finally, a big point that we are trying to make today is just the inclusion of that hybrid worker, and how can we engage them, have them feel more like part of the conversation, and be able to have some of those same collaboration and conferencing tools at home that used to be only available in the office because of the price point and some of those things. And now we've really, I think, pushed the envelope of being able to share that technology regardless of where you might be working from. And that's what's great about the DTEN Me and how we've collaborated on this product to bring those really powerful Zoom room tools to a home worker, and being able to make them feel involved in the collaboration, part of the group, part of the origin of ideas and projects, and having these features at home on the DTEN Me with the annotation, with the whiteboarding, has really helped, I think, a lot of companies return to work and also have that hybrid work plan.
Cool. Well, we went through quite a few applications of technology and new features that are available on Zoom Rooms. And just to recap, a couple of things that you should be considering in your return to the office plans is how do you deploy fail-safe video meeting spaces? Obviously, we went through quite a few today, and I really want to invite you to connect with us to make sure that you have all your questions answered, and that if you have any ideas for other ways that you want to deploy some nice video meeting technology into these spaces, that you're fully supported and equipped. And next up, I think it's really important that the solutions that you do deploy are easy to use, they're simple to set up, and they just work right out of the box. And that's something that these are all values and guiding principles that DTEN and Zoom both hold very closely, because it's incredibly important that your users can engage with the technology easily. They can just walk up to the device, hit start, and just join a meeting. It's very easy to pull up contacts, because what happens if your solutions are too complicated, then they just won't be adopted, they won't be used. And ultimately, your solutions might not take. You want to think about how do you supercharge these hybrid collaboration and connections with folks both in the office and at home. And how do you keep all those teams engaged? So these are the 4 things that I think we're really trying to touch on in this webinar, and things that you should really be considering as you plan to head back into the office. And with that, I'd like to invite you to connect with us. You can scan the QR code there with your phone. That will take you to a little sign-up form, and you can connect directly with a DTEN Zoom product expert. We'll reach out directly to you and make sure that we can answer any questions that you might have in a one-on-one capacity at your convenience. We can help you with your device management questions. We can help you design spaces, and you can get a more in-depth look at all the cool new features that we talked about today. And I think with that, I believe we have some Q&A questions that are still remaining. So Scott, Mark, if you guys want to pull some Q&A questions out, and any other questions that you may have that you might not have asked yet, now's a great time to do it. We've got some time left before we end the webinar. So before we do jump into Q&A, I just want to say thank you again for your time today, and don't hesitate to reach out.
And then most of the questions I think we got to, they were feature specific along the way. Couple questions in there, Mark, I think that we didn't touch on is simplicity on the front end, but also having simplicity on the back end when it comes to management. So why don't you talk a little bit about how rooms and DTEN can be managed remotely and bring that value and simplicity to the IT department and device management in general.
Awesome. So, device management is something that from day one was the cool thing, as we collaborated with DTEN and making these devices easier to deploy and manage. Zoom device management is something, again, that we have in there that we don't charge extra for, and it's not a third-party solution. So a lot of our competitors, they'll have their main package, then they'll have a secondary package, whether it's an on-prem server or maybe something in the cloud that you have to pay extra for in order to manage your devices. Within ZDM today, the cool thing is I can provision any one of these DTEN devices. I can turn it into a kiosk mode, like we said earlier, for virtual receptionist type of applications or remote expert. I can put digital signage on there. So if I just want to have like announcements and go out to everyone on these devices when we're not using them for a Zoom meeting, we could do that. So there's so many things you could do. You can upgrade the device itself as well remotely with ZDM. We asked that question in the chat earlier. So very powerful what we could do with Zoom device management. And so I highly advise that you guys go ahead and book a one-on-one with us so we can show you guys how easy it is. Seeing is believing. And so if we were able to show you guys via one-on-one discussion, that's probably the best way to articulate how easy it is to use to manage these devices.
Absolutely. And you get that custom solution, right, for your specific use case and your organization. So definitely please reach out to us. Thank you so much, Mark, for joining us. As always, appreciate your insight. And thank everyone for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.